Good morning, everyone. We were discussing yesterday was the system of proportional representation and the difference between the first past the post system and the proportional representation. So now we will proceed further and we will see the reason why our constitution makers adopted the first past the post system instead of a proportional representation system. Uh, what we have discussed about the PR system and the FPTP system, saw that the proportional representation system is a very much complicated system, and it can work efficiently only in a small country like Israel or Argentina. A country like India, which is such a large country area wise, such a large population is there in India. It will be very difficult if we have adopted this proportional representation. Then it could not have worked efficiently because of a large size and population of the country. So our constitution makers adopted this policy. This is the first reason. Then the second thing is also important that the system under FPTP is very simple, completely. There is no complication. It's a very simple system, and a country like India where illiteracy is at high rate at that time. At the time when we got independence, there was literacy rate was very low. So in that condition, it was not expected from people to understand the complications of the people's representation system, proportional representation system. So, our constitution makers thought of adopting this system also, because there are another reasons also. These are the two reasons. First is the large size and large population of the country. Second is the simplicity of the system of FPTP, and because of this simplicity, it was easy to uh, adopt, easy to people were easy to use that system. It was easy for the people to use that system. Then under the FPTP system, what we find that in front of the voters a clear choice is presented. They have to only think of a candidate or a party. They can give vote on the basis of the performance of the candidate also, or if they can vote also on the basis of party. It depends on them. Whatever they want to vote for the candidate or for the party. So the voters are very easily they can do this. Okay, and they can balance between the two. Sometimes they may think that the party is not good, but the candidate is very has performed very well, and in this way they can think of giving their vote to the particular candidate, not considering the party. And many times it happens that the candidate give more importance to party than the candidate. So it depends on the people that what they want. They can vote for the candidate as well as for the party also. But in PR system, what happens that the voters have to choose a party only. They are not free to choose a candidate, because the whole country is a single constituency, and all the parties are people are supposed to give their vote for the party only, not for the candidate. So what happens that in that situation, it is very much important for a person to know about all the parties. If they have the knowledge of local politics, the candidates how they are performing, these all information will not be enough. The voters must have the overall view of the party, the ideology of the party, the policies of the party, the manifesto of the party, everything they must know. And moreover, what happens that when the country is divided into different constituencies, and from each constituency one representative is elected under the what happens in the FPTP system. In that system, what happens that the representative who is elected from a particular constituency is responsible for that constituency. Any problem that arose in that constituency is he will be responsible for all these things. But in a proportional representative system, the voters cannot, the representative is not responsible. The voters cannot hold the representative responsible for their constituency. So this is one of the other reason why our constitution makers adopted this FPTP. Then it is also important that we have seen under the system of proportional representation. It is very tough for a political party to to gain majority, to win the majority of the seats in the parliament. And in that case, what happens that the coalition government is formed in those countries. Most of the times, the coalition government is formed. If we consider the situation of India, we adopted parliamentary form of government. Under the parliamentary form of government, what is important for the for becoming the ruling party, that the party must win half of the seats in the Lok Sabha. Then, if the proportional representation was adopted by our constitution makers, then in that case, what would happen that there is always uh, there is always such a situation that no single party was able to gain the majority of the seats in the Lok Sabha. And in that situation, what happened that the coalition governments could have formed. And a coalition government is also coalition government always uh, give rise to instability. Coalition government are unstable. We have experienced in our practical uh, politics also. After 1989, our country is witnessing an era of coalition, and in this era of coalition, we have find that instability is the one of the most important problem, which is caused by and because of coalition government. So our constitution makers of the were of the opinion that uh, as India was starting the democratic process, everything was new for a country. So in that situation, if we have adopted that PR system, then what happened that it could lead to instability. So at that time, stability was very much important for our country. So this system was adopted by our constitution makers. Then what we find that in this you can see the same type of table is there, in which it is the table of Tamil Nadu elections, which in which we find that elections were held in the for the 232 seats, and in this AIADMK have gained the 40.77 percentage of total votes, and it was able to get 135 seats. And if we see here, DMK, it is so it secured 31.64% of the total votes, but it is managing it is able to get only 88 seats. So there is a difference of only around 9% of sharing of votes. If we consider this, there is a only difference of 9%. But if we consider the difference in the number of seats, what we find that there is difference of around 35 plus 12, 47 seats. So this is the problem which our constitution makers wanted to solve, the problem of instability. They did not want that India should start its democratic practices with the coalition government, because it will cause instability. There was another reason this for adopting this FPTP system. The reason is that the our country, our constitution makers were very well aware of the problem of diversity in India. That was not a problem. The situation of diversity, India is a country of diverse language, diverse religion, diverse culture, and in this side by side, what we witnessed at the time of independence, partition was held, and in this process of partition, there was large scale of violence. So our constitution makers were very well aware of the situation of the country, and they were knowing that if they adopt this type of system, proportional representation system, then what could have happened, that the people could have started giving their vote according to their religious or caste related or linguistic thinking, because in this system what happens that the whole country is a single constituency. So will happen that this type of representation system would have encouraged people of same social group to own their to have their own nationwide party, so that suppose people belonging to uh, a particular language. Okay, suppose a political party is formed on the basis of language Bengali, yeah, any of the language. Then what happened that political party was formed at the national level on the basis of language, that is a particular language, Bengali language. Now what will happen when there is election, all the people in the country who belongs to that language, not all the people but most of them will vote for that party only, and in this way what will happen, the country will be divided. So our constitution makers were of the opinion that this should not be promoted, or we should adopt such a system in which the country is not divided. The proportional representation system, under the this system, there is very much possibility of division of country on the basis of religion, language, and culture. But when we adopted this FPTP system, it is in this system, a political party cannot rely on the members of a particular social group or cultural group or religious group, because they have to gain the support of all the people in order to win the election. So this is the one of the reason that our constitution makers adopted this system of FPTP. Normally, what happens that of FPTP works in such a way that it results in a two-party system. In that case, if there is only two parties, then what will happen that the most important problem what we faced under the FPTP system, that party which is not able to gain the majority, still that party becomes the ruling party because of seats they are getting. So if there is a bi-party system, if there is only two parties, then what will happen, in all the constituency there will be two candidates, and in that case any one candidate, a candidate will be able to win only. Matlab there will be 51% of vote to any candidate, because there cannot be 50-50. Either a candidate have gained have achieved 51% of the vote, and the another has achieved 49%. That's why the one is winning the election, the another is losing the election. So it gave rise to two party system. It normally it happens, but in our country, it does not happen. What we find that in India, after the independence, when the elections were held, there emerged one party dominance, that was Congress. Congress was completely dominant not only in center but also in states. But this condition, slowly, this condition start to be changed. And we find that from 1967 in the states election, the condition of Congress became uh, start to be becoming weaker. And after 1989, India, the condition of India was such that no single country, no single political party was able to gain the majority of the seats. And this led to the rise of coalition politics, multi party coalition politics. And though many states have two party competitions also, but India's party system, the distinguishing feature of India's party system is that the rise of coalition has made it possible for new and smaller parties to enter into electoral competition in spite of the FPTP system. So under the FPTP system, only two parties become more powerful, and there is no role for the smaller parties. But in India, the things developed in such a manner that under the coalition politics, even the smaller parties, even the new parties get this opportunity to enter into electoral competition. So this is these are the reasons why our constitution makers adopted the FPTP system. And the concluding part is about this, that in spite of adopting FPTP system, our politics has evolved in such a manner that it gave rise, gave uh, scope to new and smaller parties also. They are also able to enter the electoral competition. So this is the uniqueness of Indian politics. Now there is reservation of constituencies. There are our country is divided into so many constituencies. For the purpose of Lok Sabha, it is divided into 543 constituencies. Now we see how reservation of constituencies is done. Okay, we have noticed that in the FPTP election system, the candidate who secures the highest votes in a particular constituency is declared elected. This is the system of FPTP, where a candidate who secures the highest vote is declared elected. So in this situation, what we find that this is disadvantageous for the smaller social group. If a particular social group is in minority in a constituency, then what happened that a candidate from that social group will never be able to win the election because of number, because election is all about numbers, and the social group to which he is belonging is a minority social group in the constituency, so he will not be able to uh, win this election anytime. So and if we consider the context of India, what we find that India is had a history of caste based discrimination in our society. There was harsh discrimination was done against the so called lower caste of the people. And if under this system, under this FPTP system, what we find that these so-called lower caste people will not be able to gain any seat, will not be able to win the election because of their less number, because of the way they were used to be behaved by the people. So the dominant social group and caste will be able to win the election, and the this social group which is deprived, which is exploited, will not be able to win the election, and they will go unrepresented. There will not be any representative for from these social groups in the parliament. So in that case, what will happen, that their problems, their interests cannot be presented in the parliament, and their condition will become uh, more their condition will become worse. So our constitution makers were very much aware of this kind of situation, and it was their opinion that these oppressed social groups must be protected. There is need to protect the interest of these oppressed social group, and for that purpose, what happened, that our constitution has provided for reservation of constituencies. Actually, it's not a problem which arose only during the making of the constitution. Actually, this problem was there from the very beginning, and British were also aware of the um, problems of caste inequalities that was prevailing in our society, and they believed in the policy of divide and rule, and they have also devised a policy for these weaker social group, or these oppressed social group, and that was separate electorate. This system was to be adopted. It was advocated by the British in order to give representation to the oppressed social group in the Indian society. This system meant that for electing a representative from a particular community, only those voters would be eligible who belong to that community. So separate electorate means that a representative will be elected from the votes. A representative of a particular community is contesting the election. Okay, a representative from a particular community is contesting the election, and in that election, the voters who belong to that community will only be able to vote. No voters of other community will vote in that election. So this is separate electorate. This is what is done. Uh, a particular community has been separated from other communities. In the Constituent Assembly, many members expressed a fear that this will not suit our purpose. This system of separate electorate was advocated by the British, and there were some in the Constituent Assembly also that who supported this view, because, in their opinion, if in order to give proper representation to the so-called lower caste of the society, it is very much important to adopt the system of separate electorate. But many members were not supporting this view, because it was it will divide the society, and it was decided to adopt the system of reserved constituencies. In this system, what happens in this system, there is what is the difference between separate electorate and reserved constituency? reserved constituency, yeah, under this reserved constituency, what happens that all voters in a constituency are eligible to vote. It's not like that voters only belonging to a particular community can vote, but voters from all the communities are free to vote. But what is special about these reserved constituency is the candidates must belong to uh, a particular community only or social section for which the seat is reserved. Suppose a particular constituency is reserved for a particular caste. Okay. Now, what will happen? The It will work in this way that the candidate belonging to that caste for which the constituency is reserved will be there in the election. Only candidate belonging to that caste will be able to contest the election. Okay, but all the voters who are living in that constituency can give their vote. It's not that voters only belonging to that particular caste will be able to vote. Voters can vote, all the voters can vote, but candidates can only belong to that caste or that social group for which that constituency is reserved. For example, if a constituency is reserved for Dalits, then what will happen? Any party, be it Congress party or Samajwadi party or BJP or Janata party, whatever party is there, all the parties will mm, give ticket to the candidate who belong to that Dalit community for that constituency. Okay, and all the so what will happen in that constituency which is reserved for Dalits? All the candidates will be from Dalit community, and all the voters are free to give their vote. And in this, what will happen? That any one candidate will win the election and that candidate will be from Dalit community only. So in this way, Dalit community will be represented in the Lok Sabha, and the division will also not be there because all the people are free to vote. People belonging to any social group are free to vote. So in this way, this is different from the separate electorate, because in separate electorate, what we find that the candidates should also belong to uh, a particular social group for which the constituency is reserved, and voters belonging to that social group will only be able to vote. So in this way, that separate electorate is a kind of it will lead to division of the society, but in reserve constituency that is not going to happen. Okay. So there are certain social groups which may be spread across the country in a particular constituency. Their numbers may not be sufficient in a particular constituency. Their numbers may not be sufficient to be able to influence a victory of a candidate. However, taken across the country, they are a significantly sizable group. To ensure their proper representation, a system of reservation becomes necessary. So, why there is need of uh, why there is need of reserved constituency? What happens that there may be a certain social group which is spread all over the country. They are not concentrated in a particular constituency, but they are present all over the country uh, in a not in large number, but in smaller number. They are present all over the country. Okay, then what happened in any of the constituency? Their number is so less that they are not able to influence a victory of a candidate. They cannot uh, have influence on the victory of a candidate because of their less number in every almost every constituencies. So if we take their number in the whole country, what we find that their number is good. It's a significantly sizable number. They have a good number of people, but they are scattered all over the country. So if we want to give them proper representation, they will not be able to get representation on their own. They need a system of reservation, then only they will be able to be represented, because they are scattered. Their number is not such in any of the constituency that they can influence the victory of a candidate, so they are given the this kind of a reservation. The constitution provides for reservation of seats in the Lok Sabha and the state legislative assemblies, and these seats are reserved for scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. These are the caste and tribes for which the seats are reserved. This period was made fine initially for a period of 10 years. This reservation was done only for the period of 10 years, but after amendments were done, and it has been extended up to 2020. Okay, but now the parliament can take a decision to further extend it and or to end it. This is up to the decision of the parliament. The number of seats reserved for both of these groups is in proportion to their share in the population of India. We find that of the this 543 seats which are in the Lok Sabha for which the elections are done, 84 seats are reserved for scheduled caste and 47 seats are reserved for scheduled tribes. Why is it so? Because of their proportion in the population. There are scheduled caste are more in number than the scheduled tribes, so they are given 84 seats, and scheduled tribes are given 47 seats. So this is the reservation of the seats. Now we will study further in the next class.